behalf of the Lake Township Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you to the Lake Township Trustee Forum. My name is Chip Weisel. I'm the president of the Lake Chamber, and I'll be moderator of this evening's forum. We're going to begin with opening statements, 2 minutes each, from the candidates on why they're running for township trustees, followed by a series of questions. The format will be equal time Q&A, where I will pose questions to the candidates, who each have up to 1.5 minutes to respond. Candidates will be asked to answer the same questions in rotation, and all questions have been provided in advance. The rules for candidates are there's no questions or comments between candidates, and please respect the timer so every candidate has equal chance to speak. For the audience, there will be no questions, no interruptions, no recording, because we're live streaming and the recording will be posted to our website following this event. Lake Township is a growing, semi-rural area with approximately 30,000 residents here in northwest Stark County. Township trustees in Ohio are our closest level of local government, sometimes called grassroots, responsible for maintaining roads, funding safety services, managing zoning, and keeping township operations running smoothly for township residents. Each of these questions was designed to elicit candidates' response on positions, plans, and visions for the township. In November, we have 6 candidates vying for 2 open seats: David Chambers, Aaron Flume, Sue Grabowski, Jeff Miller, Carter Ridgway, and incumbent Jeremy Yoder. So we will begin with opening statements, 2 minutes each, on introducing yourself and why you're running for township trustee. And again, please respect the timer so every candidate has equal time to speak. We'll start with David.
Good evening. Chip, thank you for doing this for us.
You're welcome.
Giving us this opportunity. And I also want to thank all of the candidates just for putting themselves out there. You know, it takes a lot to put your name out there and run for public office. Some of you guys know that. Okay? But this is what makes our representative democracy work, and it works for us. My name is David Chambers. My wife and I, we moved here to Hartville almost 7 years ago, and we love it here. Immediately upon moving to Hartville, we got involved in the community, and as I said, we just love it here. My background, I'm a retired firefighter from Jackson Township, but not the one here in Stark County, down in Franklin County, outside of Columbus. Okay? During my time there, I had leadership positions, served as the logistics officer for the fire department. I've also served as the commissioner of the Greater Southeast Area Commission for the city of Columbus. At that time, I was the zoning chair. I've also served as presiding officer for 3 fraternal organizations, and now currently serving at the national level as a direct representative of the presiding officer. I would like to humbly ask for your vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Aaron Flume.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron Flume. I'd like to start by thanking the Chamber of Commerce for hosting us tonight and for all of you attending. Without engaged voters like you, this wouldn't be possible. So, I'm a longtime resident of Lake Township. I grew up in Greentown, where I still live today with my wife, 2 young children, ages 9 and 5. I bring over 15 years of experience in the automotive and business management industry. I'm also actively involved with several local nonprofits here in our community. I'm running for township trustee because I want to help make Lake a place where families like mine and yours can thrive. I care deeply about our roads, parks, emergency services, and fiscal responsibility. I believe my background in contract negotiation and service management makes me well equipped to help guide our township forward in a thoughtful, affordable, and efficient way. Thank you again for your support. I look forward to tonight's discussion and the opportunity to turn your trust and vote.
Thank you, Aaron. Sue Grabowski.
I'm Sue Grabowski, and I'm running for trustee because I see it as a natural progression of the two areas of my life that I've spent for the last 30 years. So many of you may know me as a local founder and 28 years in business at a marketing firm, Desidara, formerly Grabowski & Company. And in that time, I've put a lot of paychecks into dozens of employees' pockets and also served a wide range of clients from Amish confectioners to engineering industries like Timken and Continental, and I've gotten to travel the world and do a lot of crazy things. And this experience has given me great opportunities and some very painful ones too, because I've gotten to learn the real world kind of non-academic ins and outs of stewardship. And I've got some trophies and I've got some scars, but they've taught me a lot about the value of process, and I hope to bring that professional knowledge here. I know at a practical, bare-knuckle level how, when, and what to communicate. And the second part of my life has been, those 30 years has also been being a community steward. I really believe in the power of giving back, and so I have spent a lot of decades serving on boards as volunteers to preserve assets in our region. Currently on the Canton Regional Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee, Arts in Stark. I'm a trustee at Malone University, and I'm in the current class of Leaderships Ohio. So in both of these roles, I'm expected to collaborate, I'm expected to listen and to different perspectives, and to make the difficult but right decisions based on the objectives before us. So I'm going to bring what I know how to do professionally here, and I'm also going to come with the willingness to think and work alongside others to preserve the best of what Lake Township brings to its residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Jeff Miller.
Hello everybody, I'm Jeff Miller. If you don't know me, I was on village council twice. I was elected. I recently retired from the hardware. I was a contractor there for over 25 years. And we love Lake Township. We always have, we always will. I like being part of the process of making things better and making sure the community can grow in the correct path that the residents and the voters would like, as well as my opinion as well. Sorry, I'm nervous. It's been a while since I spoke to you. When I was on council, I was chair of safety all the time, so safety services is very important to me, making sure our fire departments and our police are well equipped and have the manpower and training to make sure we can adjust to everything in this changing society that we have. I like the idea of growing, but not too fast, keeping a lot of green space, so we have places that we can still go when these farms start selling off, because eventually they're gonna start selling off. And I just want to make sure that Lake grows in the right way. That's all I got, sir.
Thank you, Jeff. Carter Ridgeway.
Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I know you guys look at me, you're thinking this kid is way too young to be doing this. And I know, I'm 20 years old, I'm not gonna lie about that. The way I see it, I'll be spending more time in the office instead of at a bar because they're not gonna let me in. I know I'm young, but I also know about determination. And I think that throughout my life, I've exhibited that. Graduating summa cum laude from Lake actually just in 2023, summa cum laude from the University of Akron, and now an Akron Law Honors Scholar. Everything I do in my life, I've approached with a sense of determination to finish the job, and I think that that's something I'll bring here as well. I've lived in Lake Township my entire life, literally my entire life. I lived right by the old elementary school building for a few years, and I've lived now by New Baltimore ever since, and I love it here. I was talking to some people earlier, and I was telling them, I always say Lake is my favorite place in Ohio. I think it's my favorite place in our country, out of everywhere I've been. People say there's no way, but I grew up here. I lived here. I was in the Boy Scout troop here for 4 years. So I think I'm representative of who we are here, and I'd like to make sure that we keep down that path of who we are, and we don't change for the people who might be here. I think we need to prioritize the residents who already live here. I'd ask that you pass the torch down to me, help me out, and I promise you that I'll bring the same determination that I brought to everything else I've done to this as well. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Carter. Jeremy Fielder.
Thanks, Chip, for everything, and it's good to see everyone running. I think it is great to have this level of interest in local government. I think when I ran for re-election the first time 4 years ago, it was no one even went against us. So this is good to kind of see this kind of energy and excitement in local government. So that's great. So this is I will be completing my second term as Lake Township trustee. I ran 8 years ago. My kids were still in middle school and high school. And really ran for a couple different reasons. To really kind of see, Jeff, you mentioned it, we're growing no matter what. So how can we continue to guide that growth in a really thoughtful and planned out way? One of the main things that you learn here as a trustee, the number one goal is fiduciary duties. And I think one thing we've done really well is maintain a really strong budget. And I've done really good with our management of the safety services as well. And I'm continuing to run because I don't think we've accomplished everything that I've really wanted to accomplish in the first 2 terms. It is challenging. You learn a lot. I think I've grown a lot in this time period, but I still think there's more. I think there's growth that is coming, and I think we need to continue to work together to kind of make sure that we're planning for that. Grew up in Lake Township, graduated Lake High School in 1995, actually by about 28 years on that. I have kids older than you, which is awesome, but I think it's great to see you out here. Went to Mount Union, got a degree in pre-med. I went to Kent State, got a master's in business administration. Actually, I got that from Walsh, and I got a master's from public health, leadership, and organizational change from Kent State. And I work in the biotech industry currently.
Thank you, Jeremy. So we'll start with our first question, and the first person who will answer this one will be Stu Grabowski. The question is about the powers of a trustee. Townships are Ohio's grassroots form of government. By law, they only have the power specifically granted to them, or reasonably implied under the Ohio Revised Code. Because these limits are sometimes misunderstood, township trustees are often asked by residents to take actions that go beyond what a township is legally allowed to do. Trustees must therefore balance community expectations with practical legal boundaries of township authority. If elected, how would you handle the situations where residents' requests exceed the township's legal authority? Again, starting with Grabowski.
So I enjoy sleeping at night, so I'm going to stay within the legal boundaries. But it really has been my experience that otherwise avoidable misunderstandings usually come down to weak communications. That might be just some of my background speaking here, but specifically inadequate processes around communication. So we need thorough adaptive communication that allows residents to really comfortably understand what can and can't be done. And even more than that, we need people who can direct inquiries where they need to go. So I believe we need methods for receiving, prioritizing, categorizing, responding to constituent questions. And in my interactions with the current trustees and the township leadership that I've had the privilege to talk to, there is a wealth of knowledge and people are willing to go above and beyond. And that is great, but it's not sustainable. So one of the best ways we can serve constituents is to have a robust database of information, commonly asked questions, definitions around terms, clear understanding of where things lie, and referrals to places for their specific situations so that constituents can have reliable answers from no matter who in the township answers. And then we can disseminate that information one-on-one or in mass communication channels like on the township website or wherever. We want to invite everyone to the virtual water cooler here to be able to give them information, and I think we can accomplish that.
Thank you. David Chambers, same question for you. If elected, how would you handle situations where residents' requests exceed the township's legal authority?
Okay, first of all, how many of you know that township government is the oldest form of government in our nation? Introduced in 1620, predates the Constitution and the Ohio Constitution. Now on the question there, where expectations exceed authority, I would just simply explain that legally can't be done in situations where the law allows us to do something, but we may disagree. I invite you to sit down and talk with me, change my mind.
Thank you. Carter Ridgeway, same for you. How would you handle situations where residents request to exceed the township's legal authority?
So actually today, I sat down and I went through the Ohio Revised Code and I read for hours today on the Ohio Revised Code, on the limits of township trustees. So I've got now, I think, a good image of what can and can't be done. Something unique I think I bring to the table is I actually do have a lot of personal relationships with state representatives and things of that nature in state government. So if you ask me something, a request that you would like to see done, and I know that I can't do it, then there's an avenue to continue forward down that path, and I can help facilitate that as well. I think it's important that we get these requests from our residents, requests that are in line with the culture and values of our township, and that will benefit the people. Like I said, if I am able to do so, I will attempt to implement. If I still believe that they will, impact for the good the culture and the values of our community and the development of our community, I will go and talk to those people that I know. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy, same for you. If elected, how would you or how have you handled situations where residents
This
request?
surprisingly is one of the most challenging things about Lake Township and township government, because you go in there and you have a neighbor will come in and they'll ask for a resolution to a challenge, and by law there's nothing we can do to support them. Noise ordinances, parking, drainage on their land that we should be able to go there and fix it. We're not allowed to go walk on their land according to some of the laws. There's an incident that is occurring there's a homeowner that was no one wants to be this person's neighbor. Their house is disgusting. They cleaned it. We forced them to clean it up by the letters of the law over the last year. They're still not kind of getting it cleaned up. And what that led us to do is kind of to work with all the experts within the county, reference our legal counsel, and kind of move it forward. So I think the number one thing you have to do in this is understand what the law says, what the residents are looking for. Find an expert within there. Like we have our trustees are pretty well versed in different areas of expertise, and even some of the county experts and things like that we can leverage. But then also, I think the key is that we try to find a way to yes. Like there's a resident who's trying to own 70 acres, wants to do an amazing thing there, but by the letter of the law, what he wants to do, we can't do there. So instead of saying no, you can't do it, can we work and find ways to work with them through the law? So.
Thank you. Aaron Flume, same question to you. How, if elected, would you handle situations where residents request to exceed the township's legal authority?
As a trustee, it's my responsibility to operate within the boundaries set by the Ohio Revised Code. If a resident brings forward a request that the township does not have legal authority to handle, I will always be honest and transparent about those limits. That being said, I believe part of a trustee's job is to also be a bridge. If an issue falls outside of our jurisdiction, I will do my best to research it, educate myself, and connect residents with the appropriate agency or official who can help. Many residents don't always know where to turn, and that's where we come in. Well, I can't promise to fix every issue myself. I can promise to be responsive, respectful, and resourceful in helping residents find solutions.
Thank you, Aaron. Jeff Miller, same question for you. How would you handle situations where residents request to exceed township's legal authority?
I like Sue, don't want to go to jail for breaking the law. I enjoy my freedom too much. When I was on council and issues would arise and I didn't have an answer for it, I was the first one to call Columbus or whoever I needed to call to see if I could help them solve whatever the problem was. I can't remember any specific ones, but I was on the phone a lot with ethics down there, trying to sort things out. Secretary of State as well, just trying to help people find resolutions to whatever the problem is or what's going on in the issue. And as a trustee, I can do the same thing. I would fight, try and help you guys, whoever it is, have a problem, find out who can help, see if we can come up with a resolution to solve that problem. I have a friend that's a senator as well, so I've got some connections as well in Columbus. And just try and do what's right by the people.
Thank you. Our next question is about zoning, and we'll be starting with Carter Ridgeway. Many residents believe township trustees have broad authority to stop developments or fund services like cities and villages do. Given the legal limits under the Ohio law, how would you clarify your role to residents and manage expectations while addressing concerns about growth, such as the Addison Properties project on Lake Center Street?
So as we've already said, like, the ORC is the law of the land. We can't really do anything that is outside the bounds of that. And simply put, I think we all know township trustees can't just stop development wholesale. We don't have the ability to just say, nope, you can't build there, you can't build that. But there are zoning regulations. That being said, when it comes to the projects like Addison projects, it is not, in my opinion, that the township trustees are responsible to bend the rules for projects, for some projects over others. With Addison projects, you had a zoning change that was requested. Luckily, that ended up going down, which helps us keep the values and the rural aspect of our community. So I was saying it's not the responsibility of the township trustees to bend the rules. That doesn't mean that I'm not in favor of certain economic zones, TIFs, things like that, which I think we're going to talk about in a bit, that help with development and projects that are in line with our community and are in line with the values of our rural community around here. But when it comes to projects like that specific project, I think I can speak for most of us that a 320-unit condominium building, project does not necessarily fit in with the landscape of this area.
Thank you, Carter. Sue Grabowski, same question to you. Given the legal limits under Ohio law, how would you clarify your role to residents and manage expectations while addressing concerns about growth?
So as trustees, we oversee zoning, but zoning is really a process that involves research, collaboration with the Regional Planning Commission, and of course resident input. And I believe the trustees listened to the residents, and I think that's important, and that's our job. But to be clear, I am in favor of development of affordable housing, and here's why. As a Malone University trustee, we are always looking ahead for the student pipeline. And according to the CDC, the birth rates in Ohio have dropped 17% in the last 10 years. That's not good. We need people. We need families. And I was also at Ohio Chamber of Commerce event, and I saw a CNBC study of state competitiveness. Ohio ranks 5th as the top state in which to do business, but 31st related to workforce. We need workers. And so we need affordable housing, great schools, easy to access the thoroughfares, and we have that in spades in this township. And by the way, affordable housing does not mean refugee camp. Let's be straight about that. It means that it brings supply in line with demand so that our kids can afford to live in the same town they grew up in without going into unsupported debt and lining other people's pockets. So of course we have to take into consideration traffic and all those things and safety. But ultimately, I want families to build their prosperous future here rather than somewhere else. And so I think zoning is important for us to oversight, but we need to also think about bringing people here.
Thank you. Aaron Flume, same for you. Given the legal limits under a law, how would you clarify your role to residents and manage expectations while addressing concerns about growth?
I think I agree with Sue. Zoning is a collaborative process. We need to keep our housing affordable. Zoning is a collaborative process. It's essential that the trustees and zoning board and other township leaders work together closely when evaluating development proposals. For projects like Addison Properties, we have to strike a balance. On one hand, we want to preserve the semi-rural character of Lake Township. On the other, we must recognize the need for affordable housing, especially as property values rise. Lake Township has over 9,300 single-family homes with an average value of $306,000. Our average appraisal for 2024 is $267,000, well above the county township average of $173,000. We are the second highest of all of Stark County's 17 townships. That makes it harder for young families to move in and stay. My role as trustee would be to encourage strong communications between the zoning board, residents, and developers. We must consider affordability, infrastructure, and long-term impact in every decision. and make sure the process is open, transparent, and guided by what's best for residents.
Thank you. Jeff Miller, same question for you. How would you clarify your role of residents and manage expectations while addressing concerns about growth?
You know, the pros and cons of being a small community is everybody takes things personal, basically. Right. If a resident has a problem and we can't solve it as an elected official, we take it personal. When we can't fix a problem, we take it personal as well. The community is going to grow. We need to make sure that we need to make sure that everything can grow together. The roads, the school, the community, as the farms are sold off. And do things legally and to the best of our ability to make sure we're growing at a positive rate. Like it's said many times, Lake Township is great. We love it here. A lot of people, we want to bring people in, and we do that because we have great schools, great safety services, and our growth is allowing some of that to happen.
Thank you, Jeff. David, same question to you. How would you clarify your role to residents and manage expectations while addressing concerns about growth?
Well, my answer is going to be very similar to the other candidates here. And, you know, there are limits to what the trustees can and cannot do. In the case of the Addison properties, I believe the trustees made the appropriate decision at that time. A lot of residents wanted the trustees to just stop the development altogether. They did not have the power to do that. You know, if the residents want change, there's a process to do that. The zoning process is very cumbersome. But there are mechanisms to change it, whether you petition the Board of Trustees for a change or a ballot initiative to force that change. There are ways to do it. As I said, I believe that the trustees made the correct decision. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Jeremy, how have you managed residents' expectations addressing concerns about growth?
I'll speak about the Addison property one too. If you look at a map, there's a zoning map of every property in Lake Township. And the majority of the farms you see are residential one, which means you can put any kind of neighborhood in them. So if you live across from a farm, that's pretty much what it's zoned, and they're allowed to kind of do whatever they want to do within the zoning laws in that regard. The property owner for this property was 100 acres or so, requested they do a planned residential condominium community, which would have allowed smaller properties, smaller lots. It was a little bit more designed and provides 40% green space. And I don't think it was designed for a 100-acre piece of parcel, so that's why we didn't allow that to go through. I think it's more designed for a property that's more near commercial properties or a 12-acre piece of property. And I think it fit the mold of that area, what they're doing here now. That being said, I think Sue, you mentioned it. You guys all mentioned it. The youngest group, or the smallest group of individuals, are those individuals that are like 20 to 25. The largest group is 60 to 60 plus. And if you look at Stark County, we have the least young individuals staying here, and we have the oldest amount of people here. So the next 10, 20 years, those individuals are going to retire, unfortunately pass away. And those young students, they're probably going to move because there's not a whole lot of job opportunities. They're going to the university. So we need to find ways to kind of give them the opportunity to stay here within Lake Township.
Thank you, Jeremy. Our third question, and this one will start with Jeff Miller, regarding services. Lake Township has historically maintained a strong financial position with consistent budget management for services like roads, fire, and waste facilities. How would you maintain this fiscal stability, especially as growth from developments like Addison Properties, 198 home project, increases service demands, and at the same time as we increasingly have to compete with larger cities to recruit and retain qualified firefighters and EMS personnel?
Well, as I stated earlier, schools and safety services are very important to all communities. It's what brings people into different communities when you're looking to go places. Our police, Uniontown, Hartville, both fire departments, they're well staffed, they're well trained, and they get the equipment and the training they need to do the job properly. I think some of the bigger departments, and Dave might think about the same. Some of the bigger departments might not have all the up-to-date equipment because they're huge departments and just can't keep up with the demand of people to come in. Our safety service guys and girls right now they're phenomenal. They're very community oriented. They attend all kinds of different things, and I think the next door neighbor feel of Lake Township brings people that want to come into the township to be safety service workers. I believe that's very true. We've got great chiefs and police and fire department both, and it makes people thrive to want to come here.
Thank you. Aaron, same question to you. How would you maintain the fiscal responsibility or stability, especially with growth from different properties like the Addison project, increases demands, as we have to increasingly compete with larger cities to retain safety personnel?
This is a little bit personal for me because I live in the unincorporated part of the township. First, I think we need to address existing service gaps. As a resident of Greentown, I've seen firsthand the unincorporated parts of the township don't always get consistent emergency coverage. I've witnessed car accidents where response time exceeded 20 minutes. I think we can improve on that. We need to explore all options that may include proposing a small levy to extend coverage if residents support it. If not, we must strengthen partnerships with the Stark County Sheriff and other offices and agencies. A levy is not something I would push without public input, but we must have honest conversations about service expectations. Additionally, housing affordability ties in the service funding. If young families can't afford to live here, we cannot grow our services properly. My goal is to make service reliable, efficient, and fair, no matter where you live in the township.
Thank you, Aaron. Sue Grabowski, how would you maintain this fiscal stability with strain of growth and development, and as we increasingly compete with larger cities to retain personnel?
So I've spent some time with Chief Batchick to better understand his challenges and opportunities, and I also did a little homework, and based on incident reports and FBI reports, Lake Township crime has trended down about 75% in the last 10 years. That says a lot about this community and how we should be and are hostile to crime and to bad building practices that might lead to fires. I don't know that you necessarily need more firefighters or police officers just because there are more houses, but we do need to examine, looking at the existing methodologies. I'm in the same boat as Aaron as far as where I'm in the unincorporated part too. And there might be some other best practices in other counties or around the state or around the country that we could look at. We need to build a spec, though, that works for our desires, our values, and what we want. We build out a specification, and then we match models against that spec for what we want to accomplish in Lake Township. And we really need to look at technology. Nobody likes to think about AI and robots being used in automation in fire safety and police, but it's coming. And I think we need to start thinking about that now and how automation may be able to help us or help work into the spec that we build for our township. And I think we start with a spec.
Great, thank you, Sue. Mm-hmm. David Chambers, same question for you. How would you maintain the fiscal stability, especially with the strain of growth from Addison property kind of projects and competing with larger departments for safety personnel?
I believe Lake Township is fiscally strong. Don't have big problems, although there are some. Expected services, I think they're doing a good job. Are there gaps that need to be addressed? Yes, there are. And those can be addressed. The Addison project, I really believe that the additional revenue will outpace the cost of services. And as for the competition with the larger cities, I don't think it's any different now than it was 50 years ago. Okay? There's always been that competition and inability for smaller cities and villages to provide services. So what do? We don't compete. We don't compete with Akron or Canton or Cleveland or whoever. We do something different. We offer something different. As smaller department with good equipment, a department where you're a person, not just a number, and we have department heads for a reason. Let the department heads tell us what they need and what we need to do to give them the tools to succeed. And that's all the departments, not just fire and EMS.
Thank you. And lastly, to you, Carter Ridgway, how would you maintain the fiscal stability, especially with growth and development in properties and the competition from larger cities?
I think that, especially with the growth of service demands, that was really what I was trying to get at previously. I am pro-development. I'm anti-disaster, and I think you get 320 units on a plot of land like that, in that location, in this community, you would have had, I think, a disaster in your hands. We already have problems sometimes with road congestion and things like that. Luckily, it doesn't get too bad. Well, imagine 700 more cars on the road, because that's what you would have gotten. I'm pro-development. I think that project was probably a great project if it wasn't exactly where it was at. So I think we need to be careful that we don't create more projects like that, that we don't change the zoning regulations in that manner. And then for the firefighters and EMS personnel, there's a lot of state and federal grants that can help with that kind of thing. But again, these are the problems you have with the growing community, and we're going to grow. We want to grow. We don't want Hartville to not exist in 30, 40 years from now. But we have to make sure that it's sustainable growth, that it's paced growth, and that we actually have the resources at the back end to support the growth on the front end. So, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question regarding economic development will first go to Jeremy Yoder.
Jeremy didn't get to answer
Oh,
that.
Jeremy didn't get to answer that one?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You're going to go twice in a row.
Oh, that's good to know. Good to know. Heads up.
I'm sorry.
It is interesting. Lake Township's interesting. It's one of the things that I think my predecessors have done well, and what we've done well is really kept a really strong, balanced budget. One thing we try to do, every 3 years, we do a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement with the police, the road departments. We have 3 private fire departments that we contract with, and they manage things well. They have a really strong mutual aid agreement. But when we do those negotiations, the first thing we do is we look at Jackson Township, Plain Township, Perry, all the surrounding townships, see what their average pays are. It's all public. You can see what our public people make. And then we make sure that our people are near the top. We want them to feel like they belong here, like this is the great place to be. We get very little turnover. We make it a nice community where they want to grow and live. And many of our people that work in our road department, our police department, do live here or grew up here. So we definitely try to focus on those opportunities. With the increased growth, sometimes we do have to add. We are adding, I think, a full-time chief in my term, this last term here, a full-time police officer in the last term. I think we're adding a full-time road department worker to ensure that we have enough people to kind of support some of the growth. We always stay ahead of our levies. Not enough time to go into levies and how they work, but as the township grows, the taxpayer goes down a little bit, tax burden goes down, and then we have to kind of do a replacement or renewal levy, and it kind of builds it back up to where it was previously to bring in additional funds to help support the growth of our community.
Thank you. Jeremy, you're going to start.
And you were saying?
For my focus. Economic development. Considering Lake Township's ongoing growth, what economic development strategies would you pursue or have you pursued as a trustee to attract sustainable growth while addressing resident concerns about infrastructure strain and preserving the township's semi-rural character? Or a follow-up, how would you leverage tools like TIPS or partnerships with Stark County and neighboring municipalities to fund necessary improvements such as roads or utilities without overburdening the taxpayer?
This is probably the biggest passion I have for this term, and I've started working on this about 2 years ago. Our zoning director recently took an opportunity to go to another opportunity, so we have a vacancy that we're actually evolving the role to include economic development as part of the job description. And we're starting to work with some of the large property owners. There's 3 or 4 commercial properties, 619, 2, a couple on Cleveland Avenue, where we're meeting with the owners of the properties, the developers. We're trying to bring together people so it's a planned growth. What we don't need is, someone to buy a prime piece of real estate on 619 and put in a storage unit, or, certain things like that aren't going to be economically driven. The one thing about Lake Township, which is really challenging, 90% of the tax burden is on the residents. Only 10% of it is on the commercial properties and the industrial businesses, because we don't have enough. If you look at Jackson, it's like 50-50. If you look at Plain, it's like 65-35, 70-30. So we really need to have a focus on commercial growth. We talk also about individuals that want to live in Lake Township. They come here and they're like, okay, now I have to go to Green, I have to go to Jackson, I have to go to other places to kind of find what I need in regards to food, shopping. Parks is a critical thing that we need to do. If you guys recall, 7 years ago I tried to do a park levy that failed. I think there's an opportunity to kind of revisit that with more of a community focus in mind, making sure that we're doing it, listening to all the people that are part of the community so we hit the right chord.
Thank you, Jeremy. Carter Ridgway, question to you. Considering the township's growth, what economic development strategies would you pursue as a trustee to attract sustainable growth and address resident concerns about infrastructure strain and semi-rural character?
I think that commercial growth is where a lot of the emphasis has to be around here. I think Jeremy said our commercial sector is actually relatively small for the size of our population of the township. So I think things like TIFs are a good idea. Being able to bring in that business and put those funds to work on infrastructure projects. You know, this is kind of my whole overarching idea here is we need to make sure we're keeping up now with the infrastructure growth so our services don't become strained now rather than 10, 15 years down the line. We've had, we built all these residential buildings and now there's nowhere for the runoff to go, the water runoff. The streets are clogged, So I think we need to focus a lot on commercial growth. Again, like Jeremy said, there's a lot of tax revenue there that can be gained that can actually be used to support planning ahead so that we can then come in and add residential space as needed afterwards.
Okay, thank you. David Chambers, same question to you. Considering the ongoing growth, what strategies would you pursue as a trustee to attract sustainable growth while addressing resident concerns about infrastructure and the township's semi-rural character?
Okay, planned growth. Without a plan, we can't succeed. And if the residents want to retain the current identity of Lake Township, attracting large businesses is really off the table. Small businesses and medium-sized businesses is going to be key to Lake Township. Tax increment financing, they can be very complicated, need to be looked at individually. As a general rule, I'm opposed to tax abatements. Too many times I've seen tax abatements given out to large companies. After the tax abatement expires, the company says bye. They go somewhere else that gives them a tax abatement. So I'm against it. Partnerships with the county and local government to save money? Absolutely. Always pursue those partnerships to save money.
Thank you. Sue Grabowski, same question to you. How would you work with Lake Township's ongoing growth with economic strategies that attract sustainable growth and still respect residents' concerns about infrastructure strain?
So we have to establish priorities based on public perception. And tools like TIFs, I think, those are tactics, not strategies. So we really do need an overarching strategy. And the tools can do some really positive things, but they can also bring some unintended consequences. So if we're predicting tax revenue on ever increasing property values, we're not making big assumptions. We're making big assumptions that everything's going to continue to go up. And I think we need to make sure that we're calculating the risks of drops. So I'm completely open to investigating options before us. My husband says I'm an opportunity junkie. I love that. But I'm also fiscally conservative. So if we have a strategy for business and residential growth, if we have targets that we want to hit, it'll be easier for us to evaluate the tools that we can use against that strategy, find out what will work and what should drop off because it doesn't match our targets that we want to hit.
Thank you. Aaron, same question for you. How, with the ongoing growth and economic development strategies, or what specific economic strategies would you pursue as a trustee to attract growth, and how would you leverage tools like TIFs or partnerships with Stark County?
As I mentioned earlier, I think we need to make housing more affordable in the township for residents. This would allow us to maintain the property taxes that we do. With more development comes more strain on our services, so it's important that we can maintain or even grow these services. It is important to monitor the developers that are coming into the township and do what is best to make housing affordable for all residents. We need to keep the township an affordable place to live by creating affordable housing for all. Growth is needed sometimes, but we have to make our housing affordable to maintain the services that we do.
Thank you, Aaron. And Jeff, finally to you, same question. Considering the growth, what strategies would you pursue as a trustee to attract sustainable growth or addressing resident concerns? And how would you leverage tools like TIFs or partnerships with Stark County and neighboring municipalities?
Well, right now, like Jeremy said, the budget's going good. They're doing a great job with keeping up with the growth and keeping ahead of the curve. What I don't want to see in this growth is just Cleveland Avenue lined with strip malls. It's just everywhere you go be a strip mall. I think we got to have better than that for the mom and pop shops. It's going to come. The growth is going to be here. I think collectively as voters and residents and township trustees, whoever that may be, can come together and collaboratively come up with a solution to keep the sustainability of the growth that's going to happen. Taxes is part of life. If we can maintain, like Aaron said, the affordable housing, that'll help keep our taxes so they're not going up all the time. If we go too fast and become too demanding, then house properties or property values will go up, and that's just more taxes. So we just got to figure out how we can absorb and distribute the money that is going to come in. Thanks.
Thank you. The last question, and like I said at the beginning, this can kind of be used as your closing statement as well. We'll start with Aaron Flume. What are the top 2 issues that Lake Township needs to address?
Emergency services coverage. Currently, not all areas of Lake Township receive consistent EMS, fire, and police coverage. We must address these gaps, whether it's through a partial levy or improved coordination with existing agencies. Public safety should not depend on where you live in the township. And 2 would be affordable housing growth management. As property values rise, it's becoming harder for young families to move into or remain in Lake Township. As property values rise, it's becoming harder for families to remain in the township. If we don't address this, we risk losing the diversity in property tax base that support our services. We need to manage growth responsibly and make sure it benefits all residents. I'd like to close. Thank you again to the Chamber of Commerce tonight and for everyone for being here. I'm running for trustee because I believe in responsible leadership, transparent decision making, and building a township where families can thrive. As a longtime resident, a father, and someone with over 15 years in business management, I understand both the challenges and the opportunities we face. I want to help make sure our roads are safe, our emergency services are strong and accessible, and that Lake Township remains an affordable and welcoming place to live for residents, whether you lived here for decades or just moved in. I am a working parent, a community volunteer, and someone who wants to serve with integrity and accountability and common sense. I'd be honored to have your support and your vote as we work together to keep Lake Township a great place to live, raise a family, and call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Jeremy Yoder, same question to you. As you said, what are the top 2 issues that Lake Township needs to address?
I do think that the planned change and growth that we're going to have here, I'm concerned that our population is aging, and we need to think through that. And I think as students grow, and I'm probably glad to see you stick around in the township, but many of them are moving to more urban areas where there's more things for them to kind of be entertained and grow with. So I think how we approach the next 10 years will be critical, and how the next 50 years will be for Lake Township. And so I think that's a very critical piece. One thing that I don't think it's an urgent need, but I think there's a good big opportunity is Lake Township. There's 30,000 residents. There's Uniontown. There's Hartville. There's Greentown. And I think a lot of times we kind of see each other as Greentown, Uniontown, Hartville. I think there's an opportunity for all of us to kind of be a little bit more Lake Township and more branded in Lake Township. One of the things, I think that's one of the things we want to accomplish is like a Lake Township Fire Department, Greentown branch, Hartville branch, things like that, just so we feel like we're all part of the same group. Because I see people argue about Uniontown and Greentown, like you're all part of Lake Township. And so I think it's an important opportunity that we kind of bring people together. In closing, I appreciate the time. I appreciate everyone's kind of interest in local government. I would love to see even more people with these type of things. One thing that I would love to see more of is just interest. Like we talked about, Aaron, you bring up the gaps in Greentown. I get one or two people a month will call me and say, hey, we'd like to have township-wide police. But if there's a concerted effort and there's a group of individuals that want to do something, we want to listen to them. We want to be part of that solution.
Good. Thank you, Jeremy. David Chambers, what are the top 2 issues the township needs to address?
Gaps in service, previously mentioned, they need to be addressed. The biggest issue going forward is the ticking time bomb we are sitting on right now, and that is the move to abolish property taxes. It's going to get on the ballot eventually, and I think when it does, it's going to pass. Funding for local government is going to dry up. We got to figure out a way to fix that problem. The township will be expected to render services whether they have the money or not. We've said this issue has been going on since 1991. School funding was ruled unconstitutional in 1997, and our state legislators did nothing about it. The people we send to the State House need to do their job, or we need to fire them. And right now, they all need to be fired because they have not represented the people. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Carter Ridgway, what are the top 2 issues the township needs to address?
I think our greatest strength is our growth. People want to come here. People want to live here. People want to move here. We've got some of the best schools in the county, one of the larger townships in the county. But if that growth is mismanaged, I think there's been a lot of conversation about that today, there come what I believe to be the 2 greatest weaknesses, which is losing touch with our values and our character as we try and facilitate that growth, and also losing the ability to keep up with the service demands on the infrastructure. I think that's a present risk, and I think it's one that we get closer to as time goes on. So I think that, like I said, we need to work on developing our commercial sectors, making sure that we have the resources that are needed to maintain this growth without it becoming a plague. We want to keep who we are, but we want to be more than that still. We want to be bigger, we want to be better, but we have to manage that respectfully. We have to keep in mind our residents' interests. So I think that's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Carter. Jeff Miller, last question to you. What are the top 2 issues that Lake Township needs to address?
I'm not sure if they're issues, but 2 of the things that we need to constantly stay up on are safety services and the roads. We've got great roads around here now. We've got great safety services. So we're kind of on top of things, but we can't allow it to get behind. We've got to keep the training up. We've got to keep the roads up because, like I found out when I was in council in Hartville, if you let a road go too long, it just costs a lot much more money to fix it. So as long as we're maintaining the roads, there's some dangerous intersections I'd love to address. One in particular because I was in a bad crash there, but it should be Andrews and 43. I'd love to figure out some way to put something together to make that a better intersection. Mogador and 619, just another terrible intersection. It'd be nice to figure out some way to make it so you're not sitting there because one person's turning left and you're 30 cars deep waiting to get through. Other than that, the roads are great. We've got great safety services. I'd like to thank Chip and the kitchen and everybody here as well, my co-candidates for showing up tonight. And on a side note, I think just for Matt Earth's sake, I think that Jeremy and I should get on that way. He don't have to change as Mr. Yoder, Mr. Miller, Mr. Arnold. So I think it'll make it easier for Matt.
We appreciate the empathy. Pass it on to Matt.
Sure.
From the bottom of my heart.
And Mr. Arnold.
And finally, Sue Grabowski, what are the top 2 issues the Lake Township needs to address?
So number one is having a strategy. I think we need to define where we are going to go, because we need some plumb lines in place so that all these ideas, there's tons of ideas of what we could do in this township, but they've got to go up against a strategy. We've got to have some ways of measuring our progress and being able to share with residents, this is where we're going. Imagine the unity that would create. And I think we could really be the leading township in the county and in the region if we did that. And then what comes with strategy is processes. And that sounds boring, processes and systems, but there's a lot of tribal knowledge in our township. And I am impressed, amazingly impressed, by how a small group of people affect 30,000 lives. But the fact is that there's a big disparity between the work ethic of, say, my parents and my children. And we can't expect that the work ethic of the people in leadership today is going to carry into the future. So I'm interested in establishing systems that will outlive us all, and that will reflect the values of what we cherish here in Lake Township. This is what we document today, and the processes we build today will feed the AI of tomorrow. I don't want to trust a large language model to figure out what this township needs. I want to tell AI what we already value and have it be powered off of what we want and the specifications we want. And just want to thank you for this opportunity. And I've lived here and worked here for 24 years and raised my kids here, and would love to see them raise their kids here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you all for participating. It was a joy to see people like Jeremy and several of you said to show up and participate. Again, this is something that we wanted to do so that you can hear from your candidates, and I'm sure most will be able to stay for some time afterwards if you have personal questions. But on behalf of the Lake Township Chamber of Commerce, we're happy to do this. This is part of what our civic